Hey drummers, my name's Rob Litton from drumstheword.com and welcome to this completely free full song lesson. This song was suggested over on my Facebook page, and so if you want to make your own song suggestions, then please go over there to do so. The song is the legendary Cissy Strut by the Meters, drums of course by Zigaboo Modeliste. And what I've got for you is the full song drum chart. Not just the main drum beat, which a lot of teachers online seem to focus on, including myself many years ago. They just take the first drum beat and show you the main variation he plays, and then completely ignore all those cool choruses, all four of them, which are like mini drum solos in themselves. So what I've got for you today is the full PDF drum chart, all 3 pages of the song, carefully transcribed best I can, and you can download all 3 pages of that from my website. Follow the link beneath this video and you can have that printed out in front of you as we go through this lesson together. Okay, let's get started. So, the tempo's 90 BPM, sort of a steady sort of tempo. And I've written here, under the verse 1, all 16th notes are swung throughout the song. So we're not counting 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, we're counting 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a kind of a shuffle but in 16ths. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and that'll become more apparent as we start to play around with the drum beats. And there is no definitive drum beat for this song. There is no one verse beat, drum beat for example, that Zigaboo plays throughout the entire song. He actually varies it up quite a bit. So as we're going to see in this first example, there's at least a couple of ideas in the first verse already. So it starts off with nice and steady with the hi-hat. We get a relatively easy drum beat to start off with. We get 1 and 2 and a 3. And we come down with the bass drum there on 3, a 3, a 3 and a 4 and a 3 and a 4 and. That's a repeating idea during the verses, this 4 and occurring in the verses. And as we'll see when we get to the choruses, which make this drum part so spectacular but also very hard to learn, is the fact that he reverses it in the choruses and we get 4 and or 4 and in the choruses. So you learn this one drum beat one way round and then you get to the chorus and it kind of reverses it. But you'll see what I mean as we get to the chorus. But it starts off relatively simple, 1, 2, a 3 and a 4 and. You can see I'm sort of swinging it, 1 and 2, a 3. I'm not counting 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. I'm playing 1, 2, da da, da da da. I'm sort of swinging it, 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and you've got to apply that swing technique to all the 16th notes in this song. Now also notice that he's coming up to the hi-hat with the left hand. I used to think he was playing it one-handed. How silly was that? Of course he's playing it two-handed. It just makes it so much easier. And it allows you to accent the us and the es with the left hand. So what you hear is very subtle, very hard to replicate exactly what Zigaboo's playing. But my best bit of advice is listen to the song a million times, and you probably have already. But then also, you're sort of accenting the left hand a little bit more than the right hand when you come up to the hi-hat. See that? I'm sort of accenting the E on the hi-hat a little bit more with the left hand. So it's not exactly that every single time, but that's the kind of feel he's going for. And as you listen to the song and you try and replicate it, you'll naturally sort of hear and feel and move into the way Zigaboo plays it. But it's very hard to replicate, I must admit. So the next bar, he sort of focuses in on a more of the verse drum beat he's going to play for later in the verse. So we get this 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2 E, 1 E and a 2 E. Then we skip over the and, 2 E and a 3. But this time he plays a 3 E and a 3 E and we get this 3 E and on the bass drum, a 3 E and a 4. And then also a repeating idea for most of the verses, he plays 4 E and. Notice he didn't play that for the first bar, he played 4 and. But then from now on, apart from the very end of the verse, he plays 4 E and. So that second bar drum beat, 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 E and. Do it slowly. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Notice a 3 E and a 4 E and. Because when we go into the next drum beat, bar 3, he fills in the hi-hat even more. So we get a 3 E and, a 3 E and, a 3 E, a 3 E and a 4 E and. By the way, I'm going to make loads of mistakes during this video. I'm going to keep them all in. When I show you these sections up to speed, I must admit it took me a few takes to get them exactly right, especially when you're reading them off the page like this. Zigaboo isn't thinking as much as you will be and I will be when we're trying to learn his parts. He was sort of learning a beat, sort of playing around with the groove. But when you're trying to learn and play someone else's part as advanced as this, when you're trying to read it off the page, it is difficult. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. So that's bar 3. We get the 3 E and a. And that's the idea he then repeats for the rest of the verse. You see bar 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. It's like he's wound himself up. He's like building up into the main groove. He starts the song, yeah, this is it, and then then I start doing that, and then he gets in, then he settles into his standard groove. And you also hear it, some mistakes, like caught him off guard, where he goes from the verse into the chorus, where he's playing, for example, going into the chorus 1, which we'll see in a second, he starts to play a little bit of the verse, and then, oh yeah, I'm playing a different beat now, goes back to the chorus. Whether it's a mistake, whether he's been caught off guard, I don't know, I doubt it, but it does sound like that a lot, and it occurs a few times in the song where he needs to have a few bars to build up into the main, or one bar at least, to build up into the verse drum beat or the chorus drum beat, and then he's locked into it for the rest of the verse or chorus. But you'll see what I mean. So that first line has 3 different variations of the main groove drum beat. We get, first of all, 1, 2, a 3, a 4, and then 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, and then our final drum beat, 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 E and. So that drum beat then gets played again for the next 4 bars on the second line of the verse, but notice the last bar before we go into our first chorus, 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a. Same as we had before, but then we just get 4 and, not 4 E and. There's no bass drum in between this time, it's just 4 and, open hi-hat, 4 and. It then closes on beat 1 of chorus 1. Notice also there's no crash cymbal anywhere in this song. It's all hi-hat, snare drum and bass drum, not one tom, just hi-hat, snare drum, kick. It's a great, great lesson in what you can do with just these 3 parts of the body. So I'm going to play this up to speed for you. Let me play the whole of verse 1 into perhaps a little bit of chorus 1 as well, if I'm feeling brave. I'll try and play both those lines up to speed without the microphone on so you can hear just the drums. Here we go. Okay, so now we come to our first drum solo, chorus, and they really are miniature drum solos. Every single bar is different. Throughout all the choruses, we've probably got 20, 30 different variations. Goodness knows how he comes up with so many variations and plays them so naturally without any hesitations. It's a really cool idea though, and it becomes more apparent as we go into bar 2. So let me just do bar 1, then we'll talk about the pattern he plays in bar 2. So he starts off the chorus with this drum beat. 1 and a 2 E and a. 1 and a 2 E and a. He skips over the hi-hat on beat 3. Now if you want to put these hi-hats in on beat 3 usually, and we'll see it on the second line as well, it does, and the third line, it definitely makes it harder to play because you're hesitating with the right hand. I really don't know how he did, well I know how he did it, he didn't play it, but why he played it that way, well, one, it sounds really cool. It gives the groove a bit of breath, a little bit of space to breathe. But it does make it a little bit harder. You really want to play that hi-hat on beat 3, but you don't. Well, you could, but Zigaboo doesn't on the recording. So he plays 1 and a 2 E and a, and then skip over 3, and we get 3 E and a 4. And it's a repeating idea at the end of each bar, 4 and. But notice the bass drum pumps into it. 3 E and a 4 and. So that first bar, 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Even slower, 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Now if you look at the second bar, he settles into this drum beat idea where he plays 1 and a. So this snare drum now appears on the and at beat 1. It's kind of critical to the chorus groove because we've got the guitars playing da 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 dum ba da da dum da. So he's playing around with the snare drum. For that snare drum on the and of 1, he's sort of interplaying with the guitar parts. So we've got this da 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 playing with the snare drum and the melody, but then he matches the melody on the of 2 and the E of 3 with these bass drum ideas. And this is really cool, because he doesn't miss it out ever. There's always the bass drum on the of 2 and the E of 3. No matter what's being played over the top, those bass drums are played. So he keeps this groove, underlying groove going throughout this drum solo. But it's still melodic because he's maintaining that bass drum. Really, really clever stuff. Really cool, but very hard to play up to speed. So let's try and play it slowly. 1 and then it's up this idea. 2 E and 2 E and then this repeating idea. 3 E, 3 E. Hi-hat snare drum, second snare drum. Remember that bass drum on the E of 3. 3 E and 3 E and 3 E and then a 4 and. He doesn't play a 4 and every time. Later in the choruses, next chorus, he plays just 4 and, which can throw you off if you're trying to read it off the page. Anyway, that bar slowly. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. How cool is that? 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. So it's 2 bars together. 1 a 2 E a 3 E and a 4 and 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. I'm making it much harder for myself trying to count out loud over the top of it. When I'm practicing this, you count it slowly out loud. But then when you start to speed it up, you can hopefully just read it off the page. I find that easier. It also saves your breath as well. Once you've got it internalised, you don't have to be counting out loud, is what I'm saying. Once you've learned it off the page, don't count out loud. It makes it even harder for yourself. You want that challenge? Brilliant. But you don't have to. So, then on to the next line. And I'm just going to go through each of these bars individually, otherwise this lesson will be several hours long. We haven't got time to look at every single bar in minute detail. I'm just going to show you all these different variations and then you can try and put them all together. Next line, first bar. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Again, notice that and E on the bass drum there and nothing on beat 3. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Next bar. And by the way, it's worth pointing out, I must admit, some of these hi-hats, I'm not 100% sure if they're in there. So this is a good example of that. That bar there, that second bar, there might not be a hi-hat on the and of beat 3. Because the snare drum is so wonderfully high-pitched, you can't hear the high-pitched hi-hat over the top of it sometimes. Other times you can clearly hear the hi-hat, but other times you can't, but you know it's there. And so this is an example where couldn't be 100% sure whether there's a hi-hat there. So we could be playing 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, which would make sense as well. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Just coming down to the hi-hat for the 4 and. So if you want to play around with that, what I've written is 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. But it could be 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and, if you wanted to instead. And when I was playing around with this, when I was trying to learn it for this lesson, and I was recording myself and playing these sections through a few times, I would add in hi-hats, take out hi-hats, not on purpose, usually just subconsciously or by accident as I'm speeding through the reading. So you can do the same as well. So I thought I'd put that caveat in. Okay, bar 4, we get 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Getting harder. Then we get this next line. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E. Worth stopping here. This is cool. 2 snare drums with the bass drums at the same time on the and the E of 2 and 3. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and. And you do hear that hi-hat on the and that time. A 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Then the next bar. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E, that old beauty. 3 E, 3 E and 4 and. Notice he didn't play a 4 and he played 4 and. If you want to play a song note for note, might throw you off because you probably learnt the dun da 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 oh dun da 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 as like a default pattern, and then when there's no a 4 and you might suddenly be caught off guard, as I was. But you know, you could play a 4 and every time if you wanted to make it a lot easier for yourself. Don't worry about playing this note for note if you really don't want to. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But I think that's cool because it leaves a little bit of space there. We get a variation in the bass drum. Very cool. Last line, first bar, 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4. Relatively easy drum beat that. 1 and 2 and a 3 a 4 and a 4 and at the end. Then the last bar turns it around nicely at the end. 1 and 2 a 3 a 4 and. Surprise snare drum on the end there. A 4 and then we're into verse 2. So let's now play the whole of chorus 1 up to speed for you without the microphone on. Okay then, going into verse 2, and again, it takes him a couple of bars to wind up into his standard verse groove, it seems, at least 2 bars in this instance. So the first bar is this, 1, a 2 E, lots of space there with the hi-hat, 1, a 2 E, and then a 3 E and a 4, and notice it's 4 and not 4 E and, which he does later on, 1, a 2 E, a 3 E, sorry, a 3 E and a 4. A 3 E and a 4 and 1, a 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 and. Next bar we've done before, 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 E and is a 3 E and a 4 E and then the next bar is just one step further where he fills in all the spaces with the hi-hat. So we come in a little bit earlier with the hi-hat after the bass drum on the E of 2 on the and of 2. So we get 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 3 E and. He's playing all those hi-hat notes right, left, up on the hi-hats. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and, oh it's hard. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and. What's hard is playing the 3 E swung with the hands. 3 E at slow tempo, I sometimes fall over it. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. As you can see, I can't make it sound like Zigaboo. His hi-hat and snare drum is so nice, and his swing pattern is so nice, and those accents are so subtle. That last time was a bit better, where I'm sort of giving it more power. And it's definitely the left hand. That left hand on the hi-hat is definitely giving the hi-hat a bit of push on the E's and the Ers. And again, just listen to the song many, many times, listen to the groove many, many times, and you'll pick that up as you try to replicate it. So anyway, that third drum beat, played better than that, is then repeated for the second line, and then notice the very last bar of verse 2 ends with 4 and, not 4 E and, but 4 and, open hi-hat on the and of 4, 4 and 1. Then we're going to go into our next chorus. So now let me play for you the whole of verse 2. Okay, so now we got our second chorus, and again he takes a bar to wind up into the chorus drum beat. He's still playing in the verse mode, it seems. So for the first bar we get the beginning of the bar, we don't get the 1 and a, we get 1 a 2E, which is called itself. Again, I'm not sure. It might have been a purpose. You might have done that on purpose, because it definitely works. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, last time I mentioned that. It's just interesting. 1, a 2E and a. 1, a 2E and then 3E and E and E. Bass drum comes down with the E of the left hand. E and a 4 and 1, a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. Very subtle there, that bass drum on the E of 3. 1, a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. But it maintains, it sticks with the guitar groove. Next bar I like a lot. 1 and a 2E, a 3E and. I like the E and at the ends, emphasising the and. I like that. 1 and a 2E, 1 and a 2E and a 3E and. Notice there's no hi-hat on the and a 2, and I wanted to play that, but there isn't on the recording. 1 and a 2E and a 3E and. Again, it just gives it so much space to breathe. 2E and a 3E and, a 3E and. Next line, 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4 and. Similar idea we've had already now. Starting to see a few repeating ideas occurring. 3E and, but no a 4 and, just 4 and. Next bar, 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. Does have the a 4 and. Then the next bar, this is interesting. Next line, line 3. I've written the snare drum on beat 1 for both those bars on that line, because I can hear snare drums being played on beat 1 of both those bars. But it's also worth pointing out that earlier in the song and later in the song, mostly later in the song, the next two choruses, there are a couple of times where I hear him play a ghost note snare drum on beat 1, and then so we get stuff like that, where he's playing 1 and 1 and. But these two bars, they're kind of the same volume as each other, 1 and, so I included them. But there are examples later in the song, but I couldn't be 100% sure. Again, that snare drum's so wonderfully high-pitched, it matches the pitch of the hi-hat, so it's hard to hear whether it's just the hi-hat note he's playing a bit louder or something, or whether it's a ghosted snare drum note. Of course, it makes it much, much harder to play, and if you don't put that subtleness in, where you get this slightly beat 1, the snare drum on beat 1 slightly quieter than the snare drum on the and of 1, it's going to sound slightly wrong. So I didn't want to throw it in every single section where I think I'm hearing it, mainly because this song is difficult enough as it is, and also because a new drummer or a non-drummer probably wouldn't even notice it in the mix. They've got, what, there's a snare drum there? Oh yeah, there was, yeah, I can hear it now. So it wasn't essential for the groove, so I am denied about it, but for these two lines, I could definitely hear the snare drum on beat 1, so I included it. So you could experiment with that. Any of these choruses, any of these drum beats, you can play a little ghosted snare drum on beat 1 and see what that feels like. But here we get 1 and, 1 and, 1 and, 2E and a 3E. Again, snare drum and hi-hat, bass drum and snare drum together, a 3E and a 4 and, 3E and a 4 and. Same for the second bar. 1 and bit is the same. 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4 and. Just the 4 and at the end. Next line, 1 and 2E, a 3E, a 4 and. A welcome sight for any drum reader. That's a lovely little bar, simple, much simpler to play. And then we get 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4. That's a nice idea as well. 3E and 4 and. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I think I did earlier on, that you can hear in the choruses we're getting 4 and, not 4 and like we do in the verses. That's what the bit I was talking about where it reversed over. I think I did mention that though. Okay, now let's hear the whole of chorus 2 up to speed. Here we go. So our verses are very similar now. We've gone over all the variations for the verses really, but I'll just quickly briefly run through the first two bars. Again, he starts slow with the hi-hat in these verses. We get 1, a 2, no bass drum on the E of 2. So it's like he's building up the pattern again. 1, a 2, a 3E and, this is weird, a 3E and a. So he doesn't play a 3E, it's a 3E and a 4E and, but he does include the E on the snare drum, on the bass drum on the E of 4E and. So that's a completely unique verse drum beat. 1, a 2, a 3E and a 4E and. And for any drummer wanting to sort of get through this song best they can, if you're finding this a 3E, this double bass drum on 3E a little bit tricky, then you could just play 3E and every time. 3E and a 4E and rather than 3E, you could play a 3E and. It won't sound the same, but at least you've got something there on the bass drum. Rather than 3E, you just play 3. And he shows you how to do that here. 1, a 2, a 3E and a 4E and. 1, a 2, a 3E and a 4E and. Then the next bar, he winds it up, 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4E and. And then by the third bar, he's back to his filling in every note. So the first 3 bars there, 1, a 2, a 3E and a 4E and, 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4E and, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. I think I've got a mind block now telling me that's difficult when it's not. I keep telling myself, oh, here comes the difficult bit. It's not really, once you've got it in muscle memory. So then he goes on, and the last bar for that verse is exactly the same as the previous bars. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and. So nothing new there. So let's go on to chorus 3 then. And this is a great example of where you definitely hear him play a little bit of the verse into the chorus. Whether he did that on purpose, do not know. But here we get the drum beat starting, 1E and a 2E for the chorus. It's the verse drum beat. 1E and a 2E. Then we get a 3E and a 4 and. A 3E and a 4 and. So 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4 and. Then the second bar, we go to our chorus drum beat. 1 and 2E and a 3E, a 4 and a 4 at the end. So those 2 bars, 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4 and 1 and 2E and a 3E, a 4 and. Then the next line, we get some ideas we've sort of seen already. 1 and 2E and a, but he doesn't play a 3E, he plays a 3E and. Crackling the microphone, sorry about that. Hang on a sec, that would annoy me if it continues. There we go, sorry about that. Okay, so the second line, first bar, we get no bass snare drum on the E of 3. 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 4, and he pushes into E and instead. Last bar, 1 and 2E and a 3E and, my old favourite, 3E and there, 4 and. So it's a lot of changes there in just those 4 bars. Just for fun, let's play those 4 bars together, and I'll go to the next part of the chorus. 1E and a 2E, a 3E and a 4 and. 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4 and. So next page, page 3, chorus 3 continued. First bar, 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4 and. Relatively simple that. Then 1 and 2E and a 3E and 4 and. Very similar, relatively simple. Next line, 1 and 2E and a 3E and. A little bit tricky that, the E and. 1 and 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. Then the last bar, 1 and 2E and a 3E and. Now I recommend you play that snare drum on the and of 3 there, 3E and with your right hand, because your left hand then is going to play on the hi-hat, and mine's over here, it makes it a little bit awkward for me to play it this way, but your hi-hat would be normal setup over here, or left-handed, other way around obviously, but you'll be playing a 4 and. I'll be playing a 4 and. But it comes down with the bass drum. Where were we? Oh no, sorry, that's forgive me. That's the chorus later on. That does come up. But this one is a 4 and, a 4 and. Later on, the very last chorus, we get a 4 and, but hang on a sec, we'll get to that later. This bar again for you slowly. Last bar of chorus 3. 1 and 2, E and a 3, E and a 4 and. So if you play that with your right hand, it then gives your left hand time to come up to the hi-hat. A 4, a 4 and the is open as well, notice. A 4 and, a 4 and. So slowly, 1 and 2, E and a 3, E and a 4 and. 1 and 2, E and a 3, E and a 4 and. I didn't open the hi-hat there accidentally for the of 3. Don't beat yourself up if you missed that as well. These drum beats are so much fun to play in isolation, just great little grooves on their own. So now let's go back to the beginning of chorus 3. I'm going to play for you the whole thing up to speed. So the whole of chorus 3 from page 2 to page 3 up to speed. Here we go. Okay, so then for verse 4, guess what? He's slowly winding up into the verse drum beat. So he starts off with the simplest drum beat of the entire song. You can't believe that he's played just that after all the other stuff he's played. Basically, the first bar is this. 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and. But again, it gives it loads of space, allowing us to build up into this really cool second bar. The second bar is this. 1 E and a 2 E and. 2 E and. 2 E, all 3 limbs, all 4 limbs, hi-hat is open. 2 E and a 3 E and. A 3 E and a 4 E and. The bar ends normally, it's just that 2 E and a 3 E. 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Now let me try and play this for you around a couple of times because I found this difficult. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. I'm not getting that accent nicely on the hi-hats. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. God, that's fun to play. Is that 3 E again? That's basically it, but that is it. That's how you play it, really cool, but it might catch you off surprise after coming out of the chorus. You've got this rather tricky bar after this very simple bar for verse 4. Then he settles back into the standard groove he's been doing throughout the entire, for the previous verses. Bar 3 is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and it's the same for the rest of those bars, all the way to the end of verse 4 as well. So let's go on to chorus 4 then. And we get a variation in drum fill here for the first bar of the chorus, chorus 4. Again, he doesn't play 1 and, he plays this. It's going into the groove again. In fact, he does it so consistently, as I've said it so many times now, maybe he did do it on purpose because he seems to do it every single time. Anyway, 1 and a 2 E, so standard stuff, 1 and a 2 E, then the right hand comes down to the snare drum, and a 3, and a 3. The is doubled into a drag, and a 3, and a 3, and a 3 E and, stay with the right hand, and a 3 E and a 4 and. So 1, a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, and that snare drum on the and, a beat 3 there is slightly quieter to the snare drum on beat 3. 1, a 2 E and a 3 E and. That 3 and is more accented. The is not and a 3. It's more and a 3 E and. More that. 1, a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. You can play around with the accents. Then we settle into our groove for bar 2. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Next line, 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 3 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Next bar, 1 and 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 and. Next line, line 3, 1 and 2 E and a 3 E, a 4 and. Next bar, 1 and 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Last line, 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. That's an interesting one. There's a slight variation there. We get and a 3 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. Then the last bar of chorus 4, 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and. Now, 3 E and I believe he's then going to play left, right, right. You could play it right, left, left. Nothing wrong with that. But because the hi-hat's over here, you probably play that open-handed. It's just I've watching Zigaboo play a few times. He likes the open-handed stuff. So I'm guessing he would have played it open-handed. But it really doesn't matter if it's right, left, left, or left, right, right. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go left, right, right. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and that hi-hat stays ringing open, a 4 and for the whole, well, the rest of that beat, because then when we go into verse 5, we get, he strikes it again, 1 and a 2 E, 1 and, so it's already been ringing out, a 4 and a 4 and 1, a 2 E, yeah, a 4 and a 4 and 1, 2 E, and it's 1 and a 2 E into verse 5. So that's a difficult transition there. Let me play the last two lines of the chorus. 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 2 E a 3 E and a 4 and. So before we go into the last part, let's play chorus 4 up to speed. Here we go. So in the very last line, I've written here, fade out, verse 5. So you just hear 3 bars before the song completely fades out. And again, he's winding up. The first bar is that tricky bit where, again, instead of using a crash cymbal, he used the open hi-hat. 1 and you could play the hi-hat with the right hand on the and if you wanted to, but I don't think he would have. I think he would have played 1, a 2 E, just because that's Zigaboo style. But you could play 1 and, but it just accents the closing a little bit too much. 1 and a 2 E. That's why I believe he played it. 1 and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 and then the next bar, 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 and. So 4 E and again. And then the last bar, just before it completely fades out, we get 1 E and a 2 E, a 3. So he's now playing around with the verses. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. So it's 2 E, a 3 E, 2 E, 2 E, a 3 E, a 4 E and you just hear this final little open hi-hat on the and a 4 before it completely fades out. So those last 3 lines, bars, 1 and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E, a 3 E and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E. Let's do it up to speed. Let's see if I can do it. I won't count because I'm running out of breath. Sloppy. I mean, it's still sloppy, but I can't play like Zigaboo. So there you go, that's the whole song for you. Finally, someone's got round to doing it. I got round to doing it. It was a nightmare to transcribe. No, it wasn't that bad to transcribe, actually. It took me less time than I thought it would. and it was a lot of fun to do as well. So I hope you found that enjoyable. Don't forget to download the free PDF that came with this lesson. You'll find a link beneath this video, all 3 pages of the PDF. And then while you're at my website, you might also want to consider signing up to become an online member. And what I currently offer for $97 is a full year's access to every single full video song lesson I've ever recorded and transcribed. Just like this lesson, you get taught the entire song from start to finish, you get the full PDF drum chart, and I've got over 350 famous and popular songs on the website already. Loads and loads of material there. As a thank you for signing up, I'll give you access to hundreds of little videos teaching you many famous drum beats, fills and drum solos. I'll give you 3 ebooks I've written over the years containing hundreds more famous drum beats, fills and solos. And then over the year of your subscription, you also gain instant on access to all the new material that I upload for my members. And I record every week unless I'm ill or on holiday, so you've got loads of cool stuff to look forward to over the year of your subscription. And if you go over to my Facebook page, you also get to help influence what songs get chosen in the future. For example, this song was suggested over on my Facebook page. I ask my followers on a regular basis suggestions. They then get to type them in the comments. Others then get to vote on them. The most popular ones with the most thumbs up get chosen for future songs in the future. So if you want to help influence what songs get chosen in the future, then please go over to my Facebook page to do so. You'll find a link beneath this video. But if you've got any questions about any of that, feel free to email me, rob@drumsaword.com. And until our next drum lesson together, toodle pip and happy drumming to you.